Welcome, brothers and sisters in the Dhamma. Welcome to MSBS Dhamma Sharing Online. This event is jointly organized by Mahasati Patana Buddhist Society Klang and Buddhita Buddhist Society Klang. Today is Tuesday, 22nd December 2020. The time now is 8:31. A few housekeeping rules before we start. Please display your name for easy identification. Make sure your audio is muted at all times. If you wish to ask a question, you may type your question at the chat box. To ask verbally, you may raise hand, unmute and talk. Please turn off your microphone after finish asking. One person to speak at one time. During guided meditation, please on your video so Bante can see your progress. The meeting room will be locked during guided meditation. MSBS is fortunate to have with us Bante Adhibalo, popularly known as Phra Goh. Bante was born on July 14, 1985. He had his Bhikkhu ordination in the Thai Dhamma Youth sect at Santi Forest Monastery in Johor, Malaysia in 2008. Bante is currently the Vice President of Wat Palelai Buddhist Temple, Singapore. Bante will be leading the homage to the Buddha and taking out the 5 precepts. Let us compose our minds, put our palms together and welcome Bante. Over to you, Bante.
Hey, thanks, Terence, for the introduction. So now I'll start with the opening chant, so our Buddhist friends can join. Homage. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Three refuges. Buddhang saranang gacchami. Dhammang saranang gacchami. Sanghang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. And the 5 precepts. Panatipata veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Adinadana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Kamesu miccācara veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Musavada veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Supramiraya majjapamadatthana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, so good evening, everyone, and welcome to this new episode or new topic on seclusion. Right? Thanks to Terence. Right? In fact, along the way, anybody can suggest or recommend any topic. Yeah, so then we have something to go on for the next lesson. Right? So now we have this seclusion. It is not an easy topic to explain, right? So I'll try my best to go through. Okay, so next. So when we have this thing called seclusion, right? People have various concepts, preconceptions in the mind on what is seclusion, right? Sometimes you go to temples. In fact, a lot of traditional or more conservative temples, you don't see them having much fellowship activities. Everyone is not meditating, secluded. After chanting, everybody just leaves, no mixing around, no nothing. No, very seems like very antisocial, yeah, not very cold and maybe not so friendly. So we are going to talk into the various aspects on these kind of issues on seclusion. Why is that so, and why certain organizations, why they are so friendly, so warm, right? And no, they have lots of maybe some hymn singing, some maybe bonding, fellowship, whatever it is, right? And we are going to first talk about mundane seclusion, right? Even without religion, without spirituality, people can be secluded for various reasons. If let's say they are introverted, right? They're shy, right? Like the one on the left, this the seven dwarfs, right? Very shy, afraid to mix around, afraid to maybe talk to others, and afraid to go out and socialize. That is one kind of secular kind of seclusion. And does that mean these people are very spiritual? Right? The person just likes to hide in the room, right? Let's say out of the second or the fourth picture, right? Out of fear, let's say like this COVID pandemic, right? People are afraid to go out, or sometimes it's the law of the country. They prohibit you to go out. They're afraid all of us might get contracted with the virus, right? There's this fear going on, so people are afraid to get out of the house. So that is another factor of this seclusion. Yeah, during the lockdown, we are forced to stay at home, right? So, so this is another kind of seclusion. Does that mean the mind is calm and peaceful and spiritual? Right? This is food for thought. And similarly, some people just like to stay at home, doing very secular and mundane things. Maybe they want to watch all the next Netflix channels they have, or they want to play their video games, right? They have some online thing going on to play, want to get special items or level up, whatever it is. So they spend many hours, and they don't even want to get out. Sometimes the newspapers report, especially some of the youngsters, they can have like a video game retreat. They don't need to eat, no, don't need to rest, don't need to sleep. They can play the video games the whole day, and they end up being hospitalized, right? So these are some of the mundane kind of seclusions. And of course, some people just don't like to mix around, antisocial for whatever reason. Okay, and we move on the next slide. Okay. So now we're going to touch on Buddhist kind of seclusion as mentioned in the suttas. So I try to gather as many perspectives as possible. Not everyone in the Tipitaka, of course, probably the essential ones. Okay, first there's this physical seclusion, right? Normally, people are encouraged to go to the forest, go to the cave, and or maybe under the tree, whatever it is in the nature, to meditate in seclusion, meditate alone, right? So this is external physical kind of seclusion. But what I'm more interested in the mental aspect. What is the mental programming? What is the instruction we have before going to these physical places? Right? If a person doesn't have this proper mental conditioning, and they go to these forests, go to the wilderness, and they try to attempt to have a retreat or try to meditate, probably they won't improve much, right? They still have the same habit. If they have, let's say, if a person's mind is still full of greed, hatred, or delusion, or fear, and you get distracted easily. Go to forest, mosquitoes. Mosquitoes come, get very irritated. Animals making noises in the trees, squirrels jumping around, insects at night, whatever it is. There's lots of fear, afraid of dangerous animals, snakes, whatever it is. Then you cannot sleep, right? So all these um, are various concerns, which are derived from within the mind, right? So more importantly is actually the mental programming, how to deal with these inner kind of fears, inner delusions, right? Before we talk about going to this physical wilderness. In one of the previous the retreat, Zoom retreat, we talked about cemetery meditations. Right? There's a loosely or wrongly translated term, cemetery meditations, because in those days, in the Buddha's time, they didn't have cemetery meditation, they have charnel ground meditation, right? So modern day, probably in most other countries, people are, there are proper burials, right? So they changed it to cemetery meditation. So if a person were to just go for cemetery meditation, the body is already buried. You can't see the body, right? So there's no kick in it. So, but people still want to go for the thrill. They want to maybe experience the ghost or whatever it is, and some people go for these kind of things. But in the charnel ground meditation, the original idea was to look at the dead body, right? To contemplate that one day I will become like that. One day I will turn into a corpse as well. So this is the original idea, right? So similarly, so if a person doesn't train this intention or have proper instruction and go to the wilderness, then there will be issues. And before I move on, any questions on the ground? Okay, if not, okay, we move on. Next slide. Okay, so these are the marketing points, the benefits of seclusion, right? First is obtain at will, without difficulty, without trouble, the pleasure of renunciation, right? So again, there is physical renunciation and mental renunciation, right? So to experience mental renunciation, then it's good to practice alone. So again, this alone, we'll discuss it much later. There's physically alone, and there's mental programming, how to be contented alone. Okay, and the next benefit, the pleasure of seclusion, the pleasure of peace, and the pleasure of self-awakening. It's found in this Yasa Sutta. And so all these are the benefits, right? So of course, this is in line with our teachings of the Vow, the Four Noble Truths, and Eightfold Path. So that's it's very repetitive. Okay, next. So is it only for monastics, right? So again, the Buddha gave instructions to this group of lay devotees, especially those who come visit the temple very often, right? They always offer lots of items, and the Buddha keep on saying that you offer so much items. Then what's the next step for them? Sometimes when we practice, there will be a certain time when we practice a certain, let's say, form of practice until we become stagnant. We could become stagnant and there's no more progress. Practicing, let's say, dana or generosity, it's a good practice. Even some of the sutta, generosity, practicing dana can even reach enlightenment or non-returner at least, non-returner. So this is the kind of meditative aspect of practicing generosity, right? So What's next if, let's say, a person just keep on practicing generosity, but mentally they have the potential to reach further kinds of peace? Right? So the Buddha saw these people, they had this maturity, lots of merit. They keep on practicing generosity, their mind very open, very meritorious. So the Buddha gave this advice. Right? Householder, you have provided a community of monks with robes, alms, food, lodgings, medicinal requisites for the sick. But you shouldn't rest content with the thought. We have provided a community of monks with robes, alms, food, lodgings, and medicinal requisites. Next. So you should, wait for it to spin finish. So you should train yourself. Let's periodically enter and remain in seclusion and rapture. That's how you should train yourself. So this is the advice from the Buddha, right? So he's encouraging people to meditate, right? So yeah, practicing generosity is good. Then there's the next level. If you just, some people, in fact, a lot of people statistically in the, not just in the Buddhist community, even maybe perhaps other communities as well, they practice good. And probably they expect a reward, expect some form of reward, right? So this is like statistically the majority of the people, right? But then if, let's say, a person keep on practicing and practicing and their intention is slowly purified, and they can move on to the next level, which is learning how to find inner contentment, right? So it requires a lot of this reflection and meditation. Okay, next slide. Okay, so is seclusion the only way, or is seclusion done right from the beginning? Is seclusion to be practiced right from the beginning? Right? If we talk about physical kind of seclusion, then I would say no, right? Based on this, there's this conversation between Venerable Ananda and the Buddha. So Venerable Ananda is the attendant of the Buddha. So he's known to be foremost in memory. So basically he's sort of served the Buddha. And whenever the Buddha was giving sermons, he was like beside the Buddha, and he was like the mental tape recorder. He can memorize all the teachings that the Buddha preached. So they had this conversation. Ananda, right? Remember, Ananda told the Buddha, this is half of the holy life, right? Lord, admirable friendship, admirable companionship, admirable camaraderie. And the next one, then the Buddha, he replied to this Venerable Ananda, don't say that, Ananda, don't say that. Admirable friendship, admirable companionship, admirable camaraderie is actually the whole of the holy life. Wow, so what does that mean? Does it mean you have to stick with a company of friends all the way? What do you think? Right, so then there are some, maybe some organizations, they will just copy this part of the sutta, this part of the scripture, and say, okay, come, let's make friends. Let's come to my organization, right? Actually, this is just the first part of the scripture. Essential, yeah, it's essential. Okay, next. Right, so this Upada Sutta, half of the holy life. And how does a monk who has admirable people as friends, not just monk, in fact, any yogi, any practitioner, companions and comrades develop and pursue the Noble Eightfold Path? So you have to seek spiritual friends or wise companionship, kalyana mittas, we call it kalyana mittas. There is the case where a monk or yogi develop right view, blah, 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 all the way, right resolve, right speech, right action, right livelihood, all the way to right concentration, dependent on seclusion. dependent on dispassion, dependent on cessation, resulting in relinquishment. Right? So again, if you're mixing around with people, how can you have seclusion? So is the seclusion physical or the seclusion mental? Right? So this is the question here, the food for thought. Right? So, or can it be both physical and mental? Right? So I'm going to move on to the next point. Next slide. Okay, so this is ideal case, not ideal case. Okay, this Dharma is one who is reclusive, not for one who is entangled. So if a person is seeking inner peace, inner contentment, right? There is a case where a monk or yogi, right, when living in seclusion, is visited by, let's say, other fellow colleague monks, nuns, laymen, laywomen, kings, royal ministers, sectarians, and their disciples, and people from other, not other sects. Also, is nowadays it's equivalent to other religions. In those days, they mentioned other sects, and all sorts of people come and visit you. Okay, next. So if a person values seclusion, what should they do? Should they run away from all these people? I want to stay quiet, stay alone, no, just run far, far away, avoid all those people. Is this the way? Is this the correct way? Right? With his mind bent on seclusion, tending towards seclusion, inclined towards seclusion, right? Relishing and this renunciation. He converses with them only as much as is necessary for them to take their leave. So it is to say that whatever guests that come by, we are really ready to accept them. Ready to accept them, they come and go, right? So in our meditation, especially in our instruction, the first part of the meditation, all the sensations, we treat them coming and going. We do not cling onto them, right? We do not expect them. We do not purposely generate the sensations of the four elements or whatever sensation that appear in our body. We sort of, we treat them well and happy, wish them well and happy, right? And then if they disappear, we do not cling onto them, or we do not also push them away, which is aversion. So clinging is greed, right? So you see someone nice, you like to talk to the person, and you keep on pulling them. They do not go down, no, they keep on spending time together. But there will be a time they need to part, they need to go off somewhere. You also need to go off somewhere. So if there is clinging, then there will be suffering, right? Clinging to them. One of the 8 sufferings is separation from loved ones. So this is just a kind of parting farewell kind of separation. Of course, there are other kinds of separations more serious, like maybe a person gets seriously ill or passing away, right? So these are various kinds of sufferings derived from clinging, right? So again, we don't be sort of antisocial to the extent of running away. We see people come, run away, run far, far away. Not to that extent. So this is the ideal case when we talk about real equanimity, the middle way, right? So again, some people think when they want to maintain peace and quiet of mind, and they run far, far away, avoid people, avoid this, avoid that. Of course, initially, this might be the practice. Sometimes people go for retreats. There are some retreats where I remember handphones can get confiscated. Do not talk to anybody. Some places even have noble silence. Do not talk to anyone. Right? Just maintain quiet. So this is good for the initial phase. If a person want to trim down, or rather have a rough file to file down these rough defilements or rough desire to a certain degree. But you want to fine tune and root the source of the issue, avoiding isn't the way. Avoiding isn't the way. So there will be times where these are we call vicissitudes of life. You can't be living in isolation all the time. You need to sort of mix around with others, with or without you're intentionally doing it. Some people may come and visit you. You can't kick them out, right? And so if they come, you need to also converse with them, right? So this is the ideal case to maintain a peaceful mind in all scenarios. Okay, and next slide. Okay, so we are going to talk about this part, which is a bit deep now, right? So I won't touch for this lesson. I'll probably touch in the next lesson. So I'll end the theory slightly early today. It's basically more or less mentioning the same as before, just that mentioned in more detail, just analyzing the mental aspect. Okay, so any questions on the ground? No questions? Oh, the mind is so secluded. Is someone?
One question.
Yes.
Seclusion at times does lead a person to think a bit deeper. Am I right to say that?
Yeah.
So it's, can I say it's like a moderate touch of seclusion that will lead the person to think deeper and maybe right, maybe wrong, I'm not too sure. But then how does one decide that what is sufficient seclusion? How far does it go? That is my question.
Yeah, very good question. Yeah, so a lot of wisdom derived actually stems from seclusion, stems from withdrawing from the senses. Actually, it's all about time management. Right? If the mind is always engaged in worrying, stray thoughts, maybe fantasizing, worrying, daydreaming, whatever it is, then you cannot think the essential stuff. You cannot ponder and contemplate on the necessary topics. So it's all about time management. But if the mind is programmed well to do proper seclusion, then yes, definitely you can direct all the energy, channel all the energy into contemplating the right things.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, all right, no problem. Thanks for the question. I saw one thumbs up by Roy. Is that a question? How about the others? Oh yes, Sinwi, yes.
Bande, I was just, thinking about why Buddha would actually tell Ananda that having holy friends is the whole of the practice. And I wonder, in my experience is that oftentimes when I have a good friend and he or she will be holding the right precepts and the right view, say the right thing, do the right intention, I think it's actually a very powerful influence to me positively. And I guess wonder whether that's why Buddha said that. So I do like to go to the temple because tend to have people that have at least a group of people striking to do good, in both verbal and bodily and also intentionally, and I think that helps. So just a comment.
Yeah, you make a very good point. Definitely, it's got to do with peer pressure in a lot of other teachings, like right straight off from the Mangala Sutta on the 30th blessing, right from the start. The first two blessings is avoiding the fools, associating with the wise. This is one of the highest blessings. So this is right from the beginning of the Mangala Sutta. So not just this sutta, there's a lot of others that talk about, we call it spiritual friends, right? It's all about peer pressure. So how we fare in life, how well we do in life, actually depends on the kind of friends, the group of people we mix around often, right? Because everything is very subjective. All the karmas we create is based on interactions with our sense stimuli. So if we mix around with, let's say, very unwholesome people who like to gamble, for example, people like to gamble, go and drink, go to the pub, smoke and whatever, do all kinds of funny stuff. Then you mix around with them long enough, you end up become like them. You tend to go along with the activities. It's peer pressure. They will nudge you into joining them with all these vices, right? So these are peer pressure. So similarly, if we go to somewhere more wholesome, people like to do charity, people practice generosity, whatever it is, volunteerism. You mix around with them over time, they will influence you to do the same thing. Right? So similarly, if you want to talk about something more spiritual, people would like to study the religious scripture or meditate, whatever it is, and they'll influence you. So that's the way it is. So of course, it depends on your intention as well. You said the birds of the same feathers flock together. So unless you have this intention to want to mix with that group, because you see something positive in that kind of activity. If not, you won't want to mix around with these people as well. So sometimes it starts from yourself, and then the next step is this group of people influencing you, pulling you along. So it's a two-way kind of thing. All right. Okay, thanks for the question. Oh, there's another question from the chat. Bhante Phra Goh, can you explain about the spiritual companions Buddha was talking to Ananda about? Was it referring to the Sangha in reference to Ananda? From what I experienced being a lay person in the world, secluded, practice without proximity or access to Sangha for support, it would be very unwise. This is not necessarily true, right? Because this is all case by case basis. Even in the this Digha Janu Sutta on the this particular sutta on businessmen or merchants who want to practice spirituality. The Buddha also encouraged them to look for lay householders who are more spiritually inclined. Right? They observe their precepts well, they have good moral integrity, and get them to mix around more, have more conversation with each other. So this is one way to sort of pull each other upwards. Right? There's some places may not have monastics. Some places are hard to reach monastics. So the next best person will be any moral lay person. That would be good enough. And of course, I don't want to spoil market. I would say not all monastics are holy person. Not all monastics are saints. You have to observe yourself. Sometimes there are some monastics. Everyone has their own strengths and weaknesses. Some might have more display more weaknesses, and of course, you may not want to imitate or follow certain bad traits. Right? So, of course, it's all over the news. Whichever religion, sometimes you might find religious leaders doing the wrong things and the kind of stuff. So I would say it's a case-by-case basis. So for a monastic like myself, wearing a robe, this is a conventional sangha. So the real sangha are people who reach the various levels of sainthood. They achieve different stages of peace. So this one again, these inner qualities somehow nobody announced. Nobody will announce. So you have to discover for yourself. So by interacting and mixing with people, then you roughly know, okay, is it roughly up to your standard or slightly higher than your standard, and it's a good pace, good pace keeper. All right. Oh yes, Terence.
There's one question from Facebook.
Okay.
Hi Bhante. May I check So if the group of friends are important to us to lead a wholesome life, is it important to review our social circle of friends and distance ourselves from people who are unwholesome?
I don't think that would be necessary, right? There are, we call it, in this modern day, sometimes if you want to talk about treasuring friendship or treasuring, we call it, no, we call it having gratitude, for the past kind of work relationship or whatever relationship you all have in the past. So that is one way to at least just keep them in your contact. So this is the minimal. But again, because everyone has different inclinations, So over time, if you have different interests and your friends in the past have different interests, definitely you engage in different activities, and then slowly the frequency of meeting up will be lesser and lesser. So this is very natural. Happens to people in all different phases in life. So this is quite very natural. When people start to, let's say, get married, they're involved with the families, and they probably no time for maybe their friends, maybe example. Yeah. So this is called prioritizing. So if let's say you have a group of friends who have the same inclination, same objectives, same goals, then definitely you engage in similar activities and meet up more frequently. So this is how it is. So we let nature take place. The whole idea is you yourself know what you want, and have to check whether is it wholesome, is it beneficial for yourself and others. So talking about these spiritual friends and seclusion, it's good to contemplate one day we will be separated from all that is dear and near to us. Right, so this is food for thought. All right. So hopefully that answers the question.
Okay, Bante, there's another question from Facebook.
Okay.
Bante, how are we supposed to react if a good friend in the Sangha member pass away?
Yeah, if a person passes away, how should you react? No, you should react normally, normally the way you react. Even in the Buddha's time, when the Buddha passed away into Parinibbana, the monks have various kinds of reaction as well. No? Those who are probably more spiritually mature, they are more calm, they're more composed, they can accept the Buddha's passing. Right? And there are those who cannot take it and they just cry out loud. So those who want to cry, just cry. Nobody's stopping them. Nobody's telling the monks, hey, you stop crying. Shouldn't cry, not nice. No, you cry, just cry, right? So this is natural, because if we are, let's say we don't have the spiritual calmness, through concentration or wisdom, and we want to pretend to be spiritually mature, and we put on an act. We try to be cold-hearted, try to don't cry. Just put on a calm manner. We're actually storing the grief inside. So it's like a ticking time bomb, it can explode. Yeah, so it's very unhealthy. So we let nature takes its course. If you know how to contemplate, then by means contemplate. If you do not know, please you can consult your friends, consult the members in the center, in the monastery or the temple, or the other Sangha members, right? And see how to deal with the situation, how best to help, or how help them, or even help yourself. Right, so hopefully that answers your question.
Right, thank you, Bante.
Okay. No more questions? Okay, so it's about the same time. Now it's 9:10, so we have a 5-minute break. So we come back 9:15. So you can do your stretching, toilet break, then you can come for the practical guided session. Okay, welcome back. Now it's 9:15. Who's available? Okay, so whoever's present, and we shall start the practical session. So we talked about the ideal kind of seclusion. Right? So today's theme is on middle way seclusion. Middle way seclusion. That means not avoiding and not pushing away and not clinging, not holding on to any of the experiences. So we first start off small from our own mind and body, and then once we habitually sort of internalize this philosophy and hopefully can extend out to the external environment, to the people around us and the kind of stuff. So this is just an R&D, R&D phase. So we are going to find a comfortable sitting position. Relax our bodies, keep our backs upright. Okay, and once we close our eyes, then we can start off with the first phase of the meditation. We are going to scan the body from head to toe, feeling the various sensations. If you can visualize, please do. If you can't, then we just feel the sensations. So what are we looking out for? These are just a general guide for categories of sensations or the four elements. Nothing magical about them. So the earth element represents any hard and soft sensations. So let's say when you feel the body, any tension, anything dense, anything stiff, right, that will classify as the earth element. And the fire element represents warm or cold sensations, the temperature, right? And wind element represents movement, any kind of movement. It can be breathing, any flow, any movement, right? Wind element. And water element represents the moisture, anything humid or dry. It can be perspiration, saliva, tears, whatever it is. Okay, so now when we start to feel the crown of the head on down, we are going to observe the sensations, and whatever sensation that arise, we wish them well and happy. Whatever sensation beyond the four categories that arise, as long as you can take note of them, also wish them well and happy. As long as you can perceive them, right? Just wish them well and happy. So there's no need to purposely generate any sensation, no need to cling on any sensation, and no need to reject, no need to push away any sensation. So we treat all these sensations as passerby, they come and go. So as you scan your face, you can feel your eyeballs, facial muscles, and then we can slowly move the attention down to the neck and the shoulder region. Whatever sensation that arise, we wish them well and happy. And then we can start to think of the arms. Feel the arms, left arm and right arm, all the way down to the fingers. Whatever sensation that arise, we wish them well and happy. And then we can start to shift the attention to the torso, the chest and the abdomen region. Whatever sensation that arise, we wish them well and happy. And then we can think of the back of the body, the spinal cord, your shoulder blades, all the way down to the tailbone. We wish all the sensations that arise well and happy. And then we can shift the attention, the hip region, and the contact to your seat, all the way down to the rest of your feet. May all the sensations that arise be well and happy. Once we have swept the body from head to toe and at ease with the body, then we have a second round. We introduce the thought of non-greed. Earlier on, we have thoughts of non-hatred, right? Have loving kindness to the sensations of the body. So this time we have thoughts of impermanence. All these body parts, all these sensations are subject to arising and passing away, subject to birth and death. Right? Starting from, again, the crown of your head, whatever sensation you feel in the head, the scalp, right, the hairs, and the face, and your eyes. All sensations are subject to rising and passing away. And if you are done with the head region, then we can move down to the neck and the shoulder region. Same thing, whatever sensation that arise are subject to passing away. And if you can visualize, then all these body parts go through this birth and death. And the next part of the body, we're feeling the arms, left and right arms. All the sensations that arise are subject to passing away. So there's this thing called appropriate attention in Buddhist terminology. So appropriate attention is when we pay attention to a certain spot of the body or anywhere, we need to be mindful of these right thoughts, right? Thoughts of impermanence. Inappropriate attention would be just paying attention to that spot, and then all kinds of greed and hatred will come in. Either one might feel, oh, this part of the body pain, maybe you need to see a doctor, you need to see a specialist, or I need to do some exercise to strengthen this part of the body, take certain medication, whatever it is. Right? So these are worldly thoughts that come in. So from the spiritual angle, we are trying to practice this detachment. So the awareness doesn't make it right or wrong, right? It's the right reflection. And then we can think of the torso, chest and abdomen region, and whatever sensation that arise are subject to passing away. And then we can think of the back of the body, and spinal cord, shoulder blades, all the way down to the tailbone. Whatever sensation that arise are subject to passing away. And then we can move on to the hip region, right? The contact of the seat, all the way down to the rest of the feet. Whatever sensation that arise are subject to passing away. So this is mindfulness of this impermanence within the circumference of the body. Right. So if you want to unify or restrict the mind to a slightly smaller area, we can isolate this attention to one small spot, one small point below the nostril, above the upper lip. So no need to force the mind there, just a gentle attention, and no need to control the in and out breathing, let it be natural. So whenever there is an inhalation, we wish the breath well, and whenever there's an exhalation, we wish the breath happy. It's actually the same concept, right? Thoughts of non-greed and non-hatred, because this mind, wherever you place this attention, be it the body, the breath, or externally, is the same, we call it the 5 aggregates. Yeah, the same is mind that we are training. Once the mind is relatively peaceful through this loving kindness, and again it is more susceptible, it's ready to accept the impermanence and the teachings of the Dhamma. When you breathe in and out, then you just need to observe the changes in the sensations, right? See things as they really are, no need to purposely generate or force any sensation, no need to cling, and no need to push them away. So mindfulness of impermanence can create this detachment. So this is practicing seclusion in a restricted environment, restricted cognitive function. So what happens if you extend the mind? Can we still practice this seclusion, right? Mental inner peace? So we're going to try out. Right? So we're going to wish all beings in front well and happy. So when you reach out, beings in front, right? So it's like extending this welcome, or going out to socialize. How to do it in a way where the mind maintains peace and seclusion. And we come back to ourselves, and we are going to wish all beings behind well and happy. And we come back to ourselves. And next we wish all beings on the left well and happy. And we come back to ourselves, and we are going to wish all beings on the right well and happy. And we come back to ourselves, and we are going to wish all beings above well and happy. And we come back to ourselves, and we wish all beings below well and happy. And we come back to ourselves, and this time we also feel this entire body again with loving kindness. I'm mindful of a small parameter within the body. And as we slowly extend this loving kindness to all directions, above, below, and all across, starting with your own house, may all beings at home be well and happy. So we're going to extend externally, right? So I pay attention to something sort of outside the body. Can we still maintain this peace and seclusion or contentment? And we extend this loving kindness right to this surrounding neighborhood. May all beings in the neighborhood be well and happy. So without right reflection, then there will be a lots of possessiveness, and becomes my body, my house, my neighborhood. Lots of greed and clinging. Conventionally, yes, but mentally or emotionally, can one remain detached and contented with or without this external possessions. And extend this loving kindness to the entire country. May all beings in the country be well and happy. And then can extend this loving kindness to the entire continent. May all beings in the continent be well and happy. And we can extend this loving kindness to the entire world. May all beings in this planet be well and happy. So as we wish for world peace, just to check as well that the mind also has inner peace. Yeah? And eventually, we are going to wish all beings in the entire universe be well and happy. As we have thoughts of loving kindness, and we also have thoughts of impermanence. All beings in the universe, or all phenomena in the universe, are subject to rising and passing away, always subject to constant change. So before we conclude the meditation, just another reminder from the Karaniya Metta Sutta, teachings on loving kindness. As long as one maintains this boundless loving kindness, be it standing, sitting, walking, or lying down, this is the highest conduct. And of course, with the right view, which is always mindful of this impermanence, and that towards the end, one will not be reborn in the womb, or one will not come back to this world, right? So with that in mind, then we can gently open our eyes. We can end the formal meditation, but mentally, right, we are still meditating, mindful of this peace, mindful of loving kindness. Okay, so I suppose everyone is back on Earth. Okay, so any questions, problems, or issues that you faced earlier? All good, all smooth sailing?
I think there's a question from Facebook.
Yes.
Okay, if someone meditates in seclusion without mindfulness, can the seclusion environment be conducive to that someone?
No, if there's no mental, no right training or right programming, then any form of seclusion is very mundane, very mundane kind of seclusion is as good as a hiker being lost in the forest, or a soldier, just like Rambo, or one person in the forest, in the jungle, right? So this is secular kind of seclusion. The whole idea is you need to have the right mindfulness. Yeah.
Another question. A meditator who has strong mindfulness, should he still need not to be secluded in his practice if he has a steadfast mind?
Yeah, then it depends on the individual, but it's good to test know how well or how firm is your equanimity. Right? So by changing various environments, this might be a good gauge for oneself whether you're contented in any situation, in any environment. Sometimes we stay too long at one place, we might get attached. Right? So once in a while, it's good to change environment and see whether you're not comfortable with having no internet, no phone, right? and no electricity, whatever it is. So, and then of course, there's another extreme where people love to travel and they're addicted to traveling and they can't stay put at one place. So that is another form of extreme. So the ideal case is contentment in whatever situation, whether staying put or moving around. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes, Singli, yes.
I just have a comment. I think I find a good blend between the way I used to meditate and the metta, which I find that the metta allowed me to focus better and quicker. So
Yes.
at least something that I get from this session. So thank you.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Yeah, because one of the benefits of metta is quick concentration. So that is one of the benefits. And also, it's part of right thought, thoughts of non-anger. Right? So if a person uses metta, he sort of eliminate, close to 50% of this desire. Desire, our cause of suffering is desire, right? So it's three kinds actually, three kinds of desire. Kama tanha, bhava tanha, vibhava tanha. So this depends on which sutta you use. So this vibhava tanha is aversion. You want to annihilate, want to destroy. Right? So it's a kind of wanting to get rid of. So by using loving kindness, we sort of eliminate 1/3 of this desire. Right? So that's why it's a good way to calm down the mind. Okay, yeah. Thanks for the comment. And anyone else? Oh yes, there's chat. Bante, for your consideration for topics in future sessions, karma. Wow, okay, right view and understanding of one's own karma, both the known and the unknown, and how to cultivate right effort and develop insights with one's karma. Okay, so that's the next session on karma. Yeah. Okay. Thanks for the suggestion and also a question for tonight's session regarding spiritual companions. Thus, the invisible beings such as the devas and others be considered. If you can them and interact and they can influence you in a positive way, then they can be considered as kalyana mittas. If not, then if you cannot see them, then they are just guardian protectors, guardian devas. Yeah. So hopefully that answers your question. Okay, any other questions or comments? Right, there isn't, right? So we're going to dedicate merits to the unseen beings, not just the ones on Zoom. Yeah, okay. Okay, so we are closing the session with this dedication chant. So again, this is just a ritual. Actually, when we do loving kindness meditation throughout the whole universe, we actually already accomplished this. Okay. Akasatha Jabhumata Devanaga Mahitika Punyatang Anumoditva Chirang Rakhantu Loka Sasanang Etavata Cha Abhehi Sampada Punya Sampadang Sabbe Deva Sabbe Bhuta Sabbe Sata Anumodantu Sabba Sampati Siddhya. the transference of merits to the departed. Idame nyatina hotu, sukita hontu nyatayo. Idame nyatina hotu, sukita hontu nyatayo. Idame nyatina hotu, sukita hontu nyatayo. Aspiration, imina punya kamena, pame bala samagamo, sata samagamo hotu, yava nibbana patiya. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, good night.
Namaste.
Thank you,
All
Bhante.
right.
So next week will be the last session for September already.
Okay, very fast.
So we'll be extended to October. Is
Yeah,
Bhante
because
still
there's
available?
yeah, there's the karma topic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good night.
Okay, good
Thank you,
night.
Bhante. See you.
Okay, see you.
Sadhu,
All right, thank you,
sadhu, sadhu.
Bante.
Good night, sadhu.